After two epic meetings at Wimbledon and Cincinnati, all eyes are on another big meeting in the Big Apple between Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. Are we destined for a fifth meeting between the Titans, or will someone else stake their claim and take all the glory by the end of this fortnight? I'll analyze the draw and predict my men's US Open winner here on Grand Slam Tennis News Today. Hey, my name is Christian Bassnight, and you're watching Grand Slam Tennis News Today. First, starting off looking at Carlos Alcaraz's section, we could get a third round meeting with him and DC champion Dan Evans. Meanwhile, DC finalist Tyler Griekspoor is in the lower part of this little section, but the Dutchman has a tough opener in facing 19-year-old French phenom Arthur Fils. 16th seed Cam Norrie at the bottom is the second highest ranked player here, and he honestly has not done much since Indian Wells. He is low on confidence, although I think his draw is decent enough for him to at least make the third round. However, Thanasi Kokkinakis will have something to say about that. Norrie is the only player here to have beaten Alcaraz this season, but as I alluded to, the Brit is not near the form he showcased earlier in the season. To keep this short and sweet, I don't see any big threats against Carlos here, and I put him through to the quarterfinals pretty comfortably. Next, looking at Jannik's center section, Alexander Zverev and Grigor Dimitrov could meet in the third round, and the pair played last week in Cincinnati actually, where the German cruised through in straight sets. Alexander has a challenging opener though, playing Aussie Alexander Vukic, who reached the Atlanta final last month. 2012 champ Andy Murray is a potential second round opponent for Grigor, and I would favor the Brit there, but he was dealing with an abdominal strain that forced him to withdraw from Toronto and Cincinnati. At the bottom, Toronto champion Jannik Sinner could meet 2016 US Open winner Stanislav Wawrinka in round 3, who has an intriguing first round affair with Yoshihito Nishioka. I'll choose Sinner to reach the second week and actually have Zverev topple him to make the quarterfinal. Alex has really impressed me with his Cincinnati semifinal run, and even though Sinner won Toronto, Zverev to me has been playing better tennis at the moment. Third seed Daniil Medvedev's draw is next to look at, and what jumps out to me for Daniil is that possible second round meeting with Aussie Max Purcell, who has been on fire this summer, just reaching the quarterfinals in Cincinnati. I don't see this being a big call for concern though, as Purcell will likely be a bit gassed playing a lot of tennis this summer, plus the tournament is best of 5. Daniil's projected third round opponent is Borna Coric, though the Croatian has a very difficult opening round against Sebastian Baez, who just come off winning the Winston-Salem Open title. Now, Baez and Coric actually played an epic 3-hour plus match in the Winston-Salem semis, and they'll of course run it back here in the opening round in New York. The winner of that could play 2014 finalist Kei Nishikori, who is still on the comeback trail. In the bottom part here, we don't really have much going on with Nicolas Jarry and Alex de Minaur, who are projected to meet in the third round. Jarry, by the way, had to pull out of Cincy to witness the birth of his first child, so a lot has been going on with him. De Minaur, meanwhile, was a finalist in Toronto, and I do favor him to make the second week. Alex actually beat Medvedev in Canada, but I foresee the Russian getting his payback should the two meet, and I am putting him, Medvedev, through to the quarterfinals. Speaking of Russians, Andrei Rublev and Karen Khachanov are projected to meet in the fourth round, but honestly, both of these men are at risk of being bounced from the opening round. Khachanov, who has not played a singles match since Roland Garros, where he picked up a stress fracture, meets Michael Mmoh in the first round. Mmoh, meanwhile, he has scalped a lot of top players this season, and he recently upset Felix Auger-Aliassime at Wimbledon, and he also beat Hurkacz at the DC City Open. This section is very intriguing to me because in the top half alone, we have John Isner, who will be playing his last career match in Flushing at the US Open as he's retiring after this tournament. And then we have Britt Jack Draper, the talented yet injury-prone lefty, who actually eliminated Felix Auger-Aliassime here last year. And then finally, Hubie Hurkacz, who is a solid top 20 player. Then glancing at the bottom, we have a popcorn opening round match between Hugo Humbert and Matteo Berrettini. Diego Schwartzman resides here, as does Gael Monfils, who is a serious dark horse. The Frenchman has racked up some great wins this summer, beating the likes of Tsitsipas and Norrie en route to some pretty deep tournament runs. And then Andrei Rublev opens against Emil Ruusuvuori, who actually sent him packing last week in Cincinnati. To be fully transparent, I don't really see any player here winning the tournament, although I did put, I think Hurkacz as a strong title contender, as I'm honestly most confident in him going the furthest, which is why I'm picking the Polish man to take this section. Going down to the bottom half, last year's runner-up Casper Ruud could have a testy second round and American JJ Wolf. He could then meet another American Sebi Korda, but Korda is an unknown himself as he rolled his ankle during his Winston-Salem Open quarterfinal match versus Gasquet. If it weren't for that, I'd actually choose him to beat Casper in that third round, but I'll stick with Ruud to prevail. At the bottom, Francis Tiafoe opens against boys 18 USTA hardcourt champion Leonard Etienne. Big Foe has not been playing his best tennis this hardcourt swing, and he's lost in the third round of each major this year. But I do think his draw gives him an opportunity to make the second week here in New York. Casper Ruud is his biggest threat in this section, but I will go with Big Foe to make the quarterfinals yet again. I think the electric New York crowd will carry Francis back to his top form, like what we saw at last year where he made the semis. Another American, Tommy Paul, has been playing some excellent tennis this summer, making the Toronto semifinals and nearly beating Alcaraz back-to-back in Cincy. The lower part here is pretty interesting with Sasha Bublik playing Dominic Thiem in the opening round. The winner of that could face Ben Shelton in round 2. Meanwhile, Holger Rune, who will begrudgingly play on court 5 to start his tournament campaign, could play Yuri Lehechka in the second round, who is coming off a finals appearance in Winston-Salem. I can honestly see Yuri upsetting Holger should they play, as Rune has been off his game this summer, not winning a match this entire US Open series. Rune also retired from his Cincinnati opener due to, I think, a thigh injury. With him having the best form heading into Flushing, I will be going with American Tommy Paul to make the last 8. Stefanos Tsitsipas' section is a pretty good one too. The Greekman has a tough opener in Milos Raonic, who could take down Steph if he is on his game. Christopher Eubanks, who beat Tsitsipas at Wimbledon, lurks in the third round too. Eubanks does not have a lot of momentum heading into this tournament, so I'm not sure if he'll have another dream run here, but the draw is decent, so why not? In the bottom, Taylor Fritz is looking to reach the second week at a slam for the first time since Wimbledon 2022. Yes, you heard me correct. Fritz has a solid shot at breaking this dry spell as his projected seed, Lorenzo Musetti, is not playing all that great. Taylor has talked about the pressure and expectation of playing here in New York, with this being his home major, so I'm unsure of having him go that deep. However, I think he is playing better tennis right now compared to the other men here, Tsitsipas included, which is why I'm putting Fritz through to the quarterfinals. And then last but not least, we have second seed and Cincinnati champion Novak Djokovic, who has been blessed with a very, very good draw. His seeds, Auger-Aliassime, Cerundolo, and Jerry, have not been hitting on much lately. Felix especially, he's only won one singles match since May. He's at risk of being bounced from round 1-2, facing Mackie McDonald in the opening round. McDonald has been on fire this summer, and I really consider him the favorite in this matchup, which is crazy. Djokovic, meanwhile, opens against Alexandre Muller, and all Nole needs to do is beat the Frenchman to regain the top spot over Alcaraz. Remember, Novak had to skip the tournament last year due to his unvaccinated COVID status. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I don't really see anyone in this section challenging Novak, and I'm sending him through to the quarterfinals. Taking a look at our projected quarterfinals, we could see a rematch of that late night classic from last year in Alcaraz Center, and then a meeting between compatriots and good friends Medvedev-Rublev, and then a meeting between not so good friends Ruud and Rune, and of course, lastly, Tsitsipas and Djokovic. Now, when looking at my predictions, I'll have Carlitos and Medvedev make the semis, and joining them, I'll have Tommy Paul and Novak Djokovic. In the final, I'm having Medi and Nole go at it, and then I'm going to go with Medi again to win his second major title. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and get this Medvedev pick explanation out the way because I know there are going to be so many of you calling me stupid and whatever else in the comments for this, and I honestly don't blame you. I mainly went with Daniil based off of a gut feeling. I really can't explain more. I feel that Djokovic Alcaraz, again, is just too good to be true, although I had a similar feeling at Wimbledon before the tournament started, and we got that match, so who am I to say that? But anyways, my heart just gravitated towards Daniil the most, and with the solid season he's had, I feel like it's only right that he takes home a slam. It's been exactly 2 years since he halted Djokovic's calendar slam hopes, and I simply think it's time for him to lift another major title. I have Medvedev and Alcaraz meeting in the semifinal, and that one will be very tough for the third seed, seeing that he hasn't won more than 3 games in a set in all their 5 sets that they've played this year. That being said, I do think that Carlitos might not bring his best tennis to New York, and while he played well in that Cincinnati final, Carlitos was struggling with his form in the last 2 tournaments. And there's also something to be said about him defending a major title for the first time. I'm sure the pressure might be on, although he seems to have dealt with the pressure pretty well throughout his young career, but you never know. There's a first time for everything. And while I don't see him being threatened in his little section, the quarterfinal will be important for the Spanishman. He'll likely face either Sinner or Zverev there. Now, Carlitos, he fares far better against Alex than he does Jannik, who came within a point from eliminating him in the US Open quarterfinal last year. I think if the Italian can make it through and face Carlos, he has a decent shot at taking him down, as the world number one seems to be a comfortable matchup for him, Sinner. Meanwhile, Sinner is 0-6 against Daniil, and he's only won a single set against him in their previous meetings, so yeah. Medvedev told the press in his pre-tournament press conference here in New York that he's aware of the conversation that it's all about Djokovic and Alcaraz, and he said that his goal for after the US Open is for the talk and the conversation to be all about him. I think that right there is a big statement and shows us that he's hungry to get back in that winner's circle. Now, Medvedev has flown under the radar as he did not go deep in the 1000s last month, but I still think that he played solid overall. I think one of his biggest challenges earlier in this tournament besides Purcell is Hurkacz, possibly in the quarterfinals. Considering Djokovic, I think Holger Rune would be his biggest obstacle on paper in that bottom half, but they wouldn't have to meet until the semifinal, and I doubt that the Dane will even make it that far. You think maybe Taylor Fritz would be a good threat or maybe a strong contender against the Serbian, but no, they just crushed him love and 4 in the Cincy quarterfinal. So I honestly can't stress enough how good this draw is for Novak, but then again, he is the GOAT for a reason. He just makes things look easy for himself. Medvedev beating Djokovic will be a big ask, but it's definitely doable. Djokovic has looked a bit vulnerable at times in these past 2 major finals, and as the Serb attempts to further cement himself as the GOAT, I'm sure that the nerves will undoubtedly be a factor. That's all I have for my predictions, and let me know whether you agree with me having Medvedev lift the trophy. If not, comment below who you're going with. Also, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post US Open updates and even edgy player interviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time here on Grand Slam Tennis News Today.